Alright, this is a review of the Tamron 70-180 2.8. What's up guys, my name is Ross Thomas. If you're new around here, I'm a gym owner and co-owner of a production company called Lux Production House based here in Central California. I'm also known on the internet as the Brotographer. This is a non-scientific review, so please take everything that I say with a grain of salt. Also, I am in no means the most technical reviewer out there, but I just want to share my thoughts with you on the gear that I use, because I know that so many people coming up in photography and video wind up wasting a ton of money, buying products they don't use or don't need. So with that being said, here we go. Today I want to talk to you about the Tamron 70-180mm f2.8 lens for Sony E-mount cameras. I've been able to use this lens for several months, and in my opinion, it can be a massive money saver for Sony alpha shooters. Tamron was kind enough to send me the lens for testing and review, but my experiences and thoughts are completely my own. And Tamron has not seen this before I've posted it, so that's out of the way. The Tamron 70-180mm f2.8 is a Sony E-mount only lens. It has 6 low dispersion elements and 3 spherical elements, as well as multiple coatings, dual linear autofocus motors, 9 aperture blades, and is also moisture resistant. It has a 67mm front filter size and weighs in at just 1.78 pounds, which is really light for the 70-200-180 focal range. It also has a macro reproduction ratio of 1:2, which means that you essentially can get pretty close to your subject. These Tamron lenses seem to be really good at close focus distance. While the rest of the world was shut down the past summer, I was actually able to go out and use this lens in a very meaningful way. I feel like I'm able to have some well-rounded thoughts on it. Long story short, it's a fabulous lens. First, let's talk build quality. This lens, in my opinion, is exactly like the 17-28 and the 28-70 f2.8 lenses, both of which I've used pretty extensively. I wouldn't call them the best build quality in the world, but for the price you're paying, I would call them pretty good. These 3 lenses are made of plastic construction, but the plastic is nice and dense. The manual focus ring is closest to the body of the camera, but honestly, who's using manual focus on these lenses? The actual zoom ring is nice and massive with a rubber grip and makes a nice sound zooming in and out like my Tesla does when I back up. The lens also has a locking mechanism for the zoom because it externally zooms, unlike the Sony GM version, which zooms internally. One of the biggest benefits of the build quality being so small is that this lens is much less intimidating than other extremely long telephoto lenses. Whenever I'm shooting for social media in a fitness realm, I'm mostly shooting women at our gym, and they can get a little bit intimidated. They aren't necessarily looking to have a camera pointed at them all the time, and they don't want to feel like they're being sniped with it. Having this lens be much smaller is much less intimidating, and I feel like I could move around and be a little bit more free with my shooting style, and that's exactly what happened. If you're a hobbyist photographer, owning the Trinity from Tamron will allow you to invest in cheaper filters as well, because they are all 67mm. Alright, now on to autofocus accuracy and performance. All in all, I've got nothing to complain about the autofocus speed or its accuracy for the 70-180. Especially with the newer Sony bodies, the autofocus is extremely snappy. I've used this, and I own the 70-200 G Master, and honestly, I can't tell any difference in autofocus speed. There probably is, but I don't know. As far as accuracy, these lenses both do a fantastic job when used on Sony's bodies and really don't miss much at all. If it does, it's probably user error or a rare miss, but it's nothing like you had in the old DSLR days when reviewers on YouTube were getting like 6 out of 10 or 7 out of 10. They hit pretty much all the time. Moving on to some of the downsides of this lens, but honestly, there really aren't many. One that definitely is noticeable, something that's missing from this lens, it's image stabilization. I feel like in order to keep the filter size down and the weight down of this lens, because adding that stabilization just adds more internal mechanisms, they went without it. Also keep in mind that if you're using the newer Sony cameras, that most of them, well, all of the new ones have internal stabilization. But some of the new cinema cameras, like the FX6, what I'm filming this on right now, it actually doesn't. So take that for what it's worth. Your mileage may vary, but when I was shooting photos, I really wasn't getting any motion blur at all. The low light on Sony cameras is fantastic, and you can just crank up the ISO a little bit in order to get a faster shutter speed, so it really wasn't an issue. Not a single client who has hired me that I've used this lens on a job for them has ever said anything like, these videos or these photos are too grainy. Can you not bump up the ISO next time? That's not an issue. They don't care. I'm not shooting at 10,000 ISO. In my opinion, this lens is extremely sharp, just as sharp as the 70-200 G Master, if not sharper at some focal lengths. I am not going to compare side to side and go into the nitty gritty. A lot of other people are better than that, but trust me, this lens has fantastic sharpness. The only other downside of this lens is probably the extra 20 millimeters that isn't there. Yeah, 180 millimeters is probably going to be enough for most people, but if you absolutely have to have 200 millimeters, maybe it's not the right product for you. Remember, different tools for different fools. I never found myself needing 200 millimeters, but it could be nice to have sometimes. The price of the Tamron 70 to 180 millimeter f2.8 sits in at $1,199. That's $1,199, which is half the G Master. That's an extremely compelling price for the features you're getting. It's up to you though to determine whether or not you need a more expensive Sony G Master lens. If not, that extra $1,200 is a large chunk of money that can go into advancing other parts of your photography. And also keep in mind, if you're getting the trinity of these lenses, you're going to be saving, well over $2,000 when you're buying all three of them. All in all, taking everything into consideration that I mentioned with the pros and cons, I could not recommend this lens more. It's fantastic value for the money, and if you need a telephoto lens with amazing image quality, I think it's a fantastic option for you. If you like this content, make sure that you like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you for letting me give you my opinion on the Tamron 70 to 180 millimeter f2.8 today. Feel free to head over to Instagram where I post regularly, and we also have great discussions on gear and other things over there. All right, see you in the next one. Peace.